Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Analyst says there are rumors about a Dak Prescott trade. No one truly knows what the Dallas Cowboys are up to. Jerry Jones often runs a tight ship, and he's made it loud and clear that he makes all the calls there. He's surprised many people by not signing Dak Prescott to a contract extension so far, and Prescott is now expected to play on an expiring contract next season. Notably, that's why it's not that far-fetched to think that another quarterback-needy team could enter the mix. With that in mind, NFL analyst Craig Carton revealed that there's a new rumor that the Las Vegas Raiders are looking to trade for Prescott. Talking on the Carton Show, he stated that he wasn't confirming the report or even stating that it could happen, but the sole fact that the rumor is out there could mean that there's some smoke in Dallas. Jones has always been quite active with his appearances on radio shows and whatnot, so he could go on the record to dismiss these rumors if he chose to. On the other hand, he's a businessman, and perhaps this could be an opportunity to gauge his franchise quarterback's actual trade value, so he could also let this play out. The Raiders could perhaps be in a better position to trade for Prescott than to trade up in the NFL draft, and they do have a solid team that could benefit greatly from a quarterback like him. If the Cowboys aren't as sold on their quarterback as it seemed at first, now could be the best time to make a move. Cowboys pre-draft visit with big-time prospect turns heads. The Cowboys will use their first-round pick, depending on what NFL mock draft you live by, on an offensive lineman. Sure, there are some outliers who have Dallas gambling on a high-profile wide receiver or edge rusher with pick number 24. But the quality of offensive linemen in this draft and the Cowboys' need for help on the line has most pointing to the likes of Amarius Mims, Jordan Morgan, Tyler Guyton or Troy Fautanu. Assuming that's where the Cowboys go in round 1, the expectation is that they'll turn to filling the glaring hole at running back with a draftee in round 2. There are no top running backs who have a chance to land in the first round, but there should be 2 or 3 taken in round 2, with the Cowboys at number 56 most likely having their pick of the litter. Michigan's Blake Corum, Texas's Jonathan Brooks and Florida State's Trey Benson. It's Benson, who was on a 2-day visit to Dallas this week as one of the 30 pre-draft players the team is allowed to host, who is getting some attention. As NFL Network's Ian Rapoport reported on Wednesday, add FSURB Trey Benson to the list of big-time prospects visiting the Cowboys today and tomorrow. Trey Benson a player to prioritize in the NFL draft. At Bleacher Report, analyst Alex Ballantini has Benson as the top skill position player the Cowboys need to prioritize in the upcoming draft. After losing starting running back Tony Pollard in free agency and not replacing him at all with another signing, Rico Dowdle is currently the top back on the Cowboys' depth chart. The Cowboys are sure to add one in the draft. The assumption is they'll use their second rounder on one. And Benson might be the best of the lot, after running for 1,896 yards in 26 games over the past 2 seasons at Florida State. They don't really have the all-terrain vehicle to be the lead back in their committee, Ballantini wrote. Even if they plan on playing multiple backs, there's usually still a lead back who will get the majority of the early down work. Trey Benson could fill that role. The 6 feet 0 inches, 216-pound back has the speed to break off big runs if he gets free. He showed off that speed with a 4.39 40 at the combine, but he's more than just a speedster. Benson offers a combination of physicality, pass catching and big play speed that should offer something that's closer to 2022 Tony Pollard than the veteran was able to bring to the table in 2023. Cowboys could skip RB, even in round 2 of course. We've seen over the years that the Cowboys have leaned into the notion that they do not need to expend hefty resources on running backs. They had an interest in bringing back Pollard, but even his 3-year, $21 million contract from the Titans was too much for them. Because of that, there's no real guarantee they will use a second rounder on a running back, either. They could be the only team picking one at that point. Why not wait until round 3 and instead try to pluck one of the excellent wide receivers in this 2024 class? Or fill the obvious need for depth at linebacker? Indeed, by the Dallas Morning News pre-draft tracker, the Cowboys have brought in 6 linebackers for visits, including the top 3 at the position, Edgerrin Cooper of Texas A&M, Peyton Wilson of North Carolina State and Junior Colson of Michigan. They've also brought in 6 running backs, most of whom won't go in the second round. So, while the assumption is that's where the Cowboys will turn in round 2, with Benson being a top candidate, they could wait even longer to pluck their top running back. Derrick Henry believes joining Dallas Cowboys in free agency would have been a perfect situation. We are squarely in the month of April, and to date the Dallas Cowboys have only a single external free agent signing. His name is Eric Kendricks and he plays linebacker, in case you forgot. How the Cowboys have approached this time of year remains under scrutiny, but what's done is done. I do not say that in any sort of give-up way, but in a matter of fact one, as different free agents have already found non-Dallas homes. Interestingly enough, one player who calls Dallas his literal home has now said several times that the Cowboys never made a point to call him about making it his football residence as well. You know the name and are likely frustrated at the situation. Derrick Henry believes joining Dallas Cowboys in free agency would have been a perfect situation. It has been almost a month since Derrick Henry joined the Baltimore Ravens, and when he did, NFL fans immediately began to wonder what a rushing attack with him and Lamar Jackson would look like. We will find out in an up-close way as Dallas hosts Baltimore this season. In the immediate aftermath of joining the Ravens, Henry was asked specifically about whether or not the Cowboys called him. He noted that they did not. After that story took off, it was reported that Dallas did not call him because they did not want to insult him by lowballing him. Seriously, the Cowboys have yet to seriously address the running back position, although they have brought back Rico Dowdle this offseason. Together with Deuce Vaughn, he comprises a group that many expect to be joined by a draft pick and potentially Ezekiel Elliott or Dalvin Cook, who are both coming off of career-low seasons, so it is difficult to deny that Dallas should have looked more seriously into the idea of Henry. Henry was a recent guest on The Pivot and was asked yet again about his interactions, really the lack of them, with the Cowboys throughout free agency. He detailed how he would have been interested, but obviously could not be without a call or offer from them. Even though I'm living in Dallas, and Dallas being a perfect situation, as well, because we lived there, we ain't got to move. But at the same time, Ravens, the history of it, and then talking to Ray Lewis at the Pro Bowl, his passion about the organization, his impact there and how he talked about it. I was like, man, if I'm not in Tennessee or I don't get to go to Dallas, I'd love to be a Raven. They ain't holla at me at all, Henry answered when asked if the Cowboys were in the mix. For Henry, it would have been a surreal situation to play with a star on his helmet. Ideal a location as it might well have been, Henry indicated nothing was ever in the works. Quote, "It would have been crazy," he said. "I thought it had been some type of reach out, some type of talks or whatever. They never reached out, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know too much about their organization. All I know is what I hear. I was talking to my agent. They weren't really interested. It is what it is. Like I said earlier, I'm gonna be where I'm gonna be, and I feel like Baltimore was the perfect spot." Whether or not the Cowboys truly did not call Henry as a sort of respect to him, not seriously considering him, seems to be a mistake. Especially if he viewed the situation to be a perfect one. The last few years have seen a general movement pass that running backs don't matter, and while there is legitimate truth to the idea that spending premium assets on one is risky, they certainly provide value. What's more is that the Cowboys are still in a hole at the position and now painted into a corner with needing to draft one a few weeks from now in a year where there is not a ton of running back depth in the draft class. Free agency saw plenty of teams get ahead of the curve by bringing in running backs in anticipation of this, but the Cowboys seem to feel confident in their approach whether we agree with it or not. As noted, there has been a lot of thought and input for how the Cowboys are approaching free agency, and in talking about his new team, Henry may have implied how he felt about ours. "I'm happy I'm going somewhere that they're hungry," he said. "They're hungry for it and they're right on the cusp. They're always in the conversation. I know Lamar wants one really bad, so I ain't going to somewhere where the expectation is like, we're going to see what's going to happen. Let's make the playoffs and make some noise." No, they're trying to win it. Being so close and losing that game to Kansas City, I know they're hungry. I know they're gonna come in with the right mindset, and let's get to it. I'm ready to come in and be that added piece to it to help spring them forward any way possible. Any way I can. It is fair for Henry to believe that the Ravens are hungry and going for it, given that they pursued him the way that they did. He doesn't directly say that the Cowboys are not hungry or not going for it. A lot of us are saying that, but if they didn't even call him, it is hard to argue against that idea.